So let's take a look at how it works. 1 to 6 points are allocated for driving offences. If a driver racks up more than 12 demerits, that results in a suspension. 3 suspensions mean a cancellation of the driving licence. To discuss, we're now joined by Layton Beard, spokesperson for the Automobile Association from our studios in Pretoria. Welcome, Layton. What's the AA's response to AARTO, the bill now becoming law?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously already in March voiced our concern about the introduction of the bill. We said in its current format it's flawed. We stand by that. We think that currently as it looks, it gives the impression that it's geared towards revenue collection rather than making roads in South Africa safer, which I think should be the ultimate aim of the bill. When we look at the demerit points that are given to certain offences, which we deem to be very stringent, those demerit points are very low. We heard in that insert, for instance, you get 1 demerit point for talking on a cell phone. Now, in our opinion, distracted driving is a major cause of crashes in South Africa. It's a very dangerous habit, and it should be treated with a lot more severity than just 1 demerit point. Similarly, when you look at, for instance, the demerit point you get for not wearing a seatbelt, it's 1 demerit point, and the rand value is 500 rand. Again, this is a very serious offence. It's a very serious road traffic violation, and it's very serious in terms of your ability to drive properly. So we think that that should be given a lot more value in terms of the demerit points and the rand value attached to it. So all in all, I think we are disappointed that the bill has been signed, and like I said, in its current form, we certainly do believe it is flawed.
How is it a revenue making scheme or venture? Because surely drivers are getting fined. They do have to pay those fines anyway at the moment.
Yeah, but I think the intention of the bill was not to generate revenue. I think the intention of the bill, and it's been explicitly stated by not only the current minister, but by previous ministers and also road traffic officials, that the bill's intention is to reduce deaths on our roads and to reduce crashes on our roads. Now, when you're going to be fining people for minor offences instead of dealing with the problems of not wearing a seatbelt or speaking on a cell phone, or even worse, texting on a cell phone while you're driving, and attach very low value rand monetary value to that and low demerit points to that, then you do get the impression that the bulk of what is being fined are low value road violations, and they are almost easy pickings. And in that sense, I think we regard this as revenue collection instead of dealing with the core of the problem, and that is to take dangerous drivers off the road.
Okay, but you're not opposed to a demerit system as long as it's more workable and more geared towards road safety, is that correct?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know, when the first demerit point system was mooted in South Africa in the late 1960s, the Automobile Association was in favour of that. And I think even today, you know, throughout the 1990s and the early 2000s, when the AARTO bill was being formulated and was being mooted, the AA has always given its support to the introduction of a demerit system. We are not against a demerit system. We certainly have been advocating for that for a long time. I think what we would like to see is a demerit system that is geared towards dealing with road carnage in a more effective way than the current bill does, which is why I think we've raised our concerns about the current bill, and which is why we're saying it's flawed.
Do you concur with AARTO, the organisation undoing tax abuse? They also have some other concerns that it's logistically cumbersome to the point of being unconstitutional, that it could lead to corruption, and that it could force motorists to pay their e-tolls. Are you worried about any of those issues?
I think there are a lot of issues that are on the sidelines of the introduction to this bill. We are certainly going through it with a fine-tooth comb now that it's been signed into law. I mean, we've reviewed it in the past already. We're obviously just going to be checking to see if there's been any amendments to it. I think certainly when you look at some of the provisions in the bill, for instance, you know, the Road Traffic Infringement Agency is the agency which will be issuing the fines, and that's the same agency to which people must lodge any complaints or appeals. So you're effectively making the RTIA the judge and the jury. You're making them the people who are going to police the crime, and then they're going to sit, and decide about whether that was the right thing or the wrong thing. So from our point of view, that may be an issue of constitutionality that might not pass that muster. In terms of the corruption that is prevalent already in the system, we think that that needs to be sorted out and needs to be re-looked at a lot more intensively, and we are also not of the view that the AARTO bill is necessarily going to deal with that effectively. So there are a lot of issues around this, Francis, that I think we have grave concern over.
Will you be taking any legal action?
Look, the bill was signed by the President on Friday. We have been meeting and reviewing the current legislation. At this stage, we're reviewing our options, we're weighing our options, and certainly we'll be making a decision in the next couple of days as to how we're going to proceed legally, if at all.
Layton, many fines go unpaid. We know there's been problems with collection, so presumably police will have to be much better at enforcing these demerits anyway. Do you think it'll be easy for them to know who's kind of racked up 12 demerit points and get them off the roads? Let's talk about the workability of this.
I think that's one of the concerns that was raised initially as well, in terms of the logistics around how people are going to know on the road exactly what the situation is with specific drivers. Are the systems going to talk to each other, and how's it going to work practically? That certainly is something that needs a lot of explanation, and we would like to kind of drill down and see exactly what's going to happen with that. In terms of law enforcement, and we raised this issue in an open letter to the Minister at the end of July, we think that obviously law enforcement is lacking. More law enforcement is needed, and not law enforcement in terms of what I would term non-moving violations, but more law enforcement of moving violations: not wearing your seatbelt, not having children in car seats, or wearing seatbelts on the back seat, people who are speeding and talking on their cell phones, or worse, texting on their cell phones while they are driving. That is where law enforcement is needed, and that's where you are going to see changes to the crash fatality numbers that we currently see in South Africa. I think from our point of view, we would like to see something that is going to address that. And at the moment, we don't believe that the AARTO bill is going to do that.
And finally, Layton, I mean, just tonight we were talking about a horror crash in Johannesburg. 9 people killed, 2 taxis involved in that accident in Midrand. I was thinking, if taxi drivers start getting taken off the roads, that means their livelihood. Is that something that government has to balance? Do you think that'll be a difficult one?
I think it's always a difficult one for government to balance the rights of other road users and compare them to the rights of other people using the road. The question that I would pose is, what law enforcement is dealing with those infringements at the moment? Is it effective at the moment? And is an AARTO bill necessarily going to fix that? In our opinion, it won't.
All right, thank you very much. Layton Beard from the Automobile Association.